kasaysayan, kababalaghan, politika, current events, at iba pa. Huwag magpahuli, ating alamin, tuklasin dito sa Historiador. Filipino. Matapos sumugong ang balitang nasa kustodiya na ng Czech Republic si Zaldico at inaasikaso na ang papeles nito para ma-turn over sa Pinas at mapauwi para mapanagot na sa mga alikasyong ibinabato sa kanya ay kaagad ng lumutang at nagbigay ng kanyang pahayag ang pinsan ng Pangulo at dating House Speaker na si Martin Romualdez. Halos walang may naniniwala sa hugas kamay na ginagawa ni Martin kaugnay sa paglustay nila sa kaban ng bayan na nagmula sa flood control projects ng gobyerno. Sabi ng iba, napaka-imposibleng hindi niya maamoy ang mga pinanggagawa ni Zaldico, gayong siya ang pinakapinuno ng Kongreso nung panahong yun. Isa rin si Martin at ang mismong Pangulo na itinuturo ni Zaldico na sila rin umano ang may pakana sa mga insertion sa budget na napunta sa kanilang mga bulsa, pero matigas ang tinawag noon ni Sara na si Tamba at pinapasinungalingan ang mga akusasyon laban sa kanya.
For a long time, I chose to remain silent. I did so out of respect for the legal process. I did so because I did not want to add more noise to an already divisive issue. I did so because I believed that if I cooperated fully, submitted myself to the proper authorities, and answered every question asked of me, the truth would eventually speak for itself. But there comes a point when silence is no longer prudence. My silence has been abused and weaponized to build a narrative that is false, twisted, and unfair. So let me be clear. I will not keep quiet anymore. I will face this head on, and I will speak with facts because the truth deserves to be heard. Today, I am taking this opportunity to speak directly to the Filipino people. From the start of this controversy, I have been cooperative. I personally appeared before the proper authorities. I voluntarily submitted my affidavit to the ICI. I provided the information and documents asked of me. I did not hide. I did not run. I did not evade scrutiny. I faced it head on within the proper channel because I know there is no evidence that proves I committed plunder, conspiracy to commit plunder, or any similar offense that the Ombudsman may be contemplating against me. And because I have nothing to hide, I am today authorizing the immediate public release of the affidavit I submitted, together with all supporting information so that the Filipino people can judge for themselves who has been transparent and who is simply being politically targeted. Now let us address the most absurd accusation of all, that I am supposedly the mastermind of this corruption scheme. How can I be the mastermind? I was the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, but the House of Representatives is only one part of the branch of government, the legislature. The national budget is not conceived, executed, implemented, bidded out, supervised, and completed by one congressman or even by Congress alone, and certainly not by the Speaker of the House. I want to make this simple and clear. The national budget does not depend on just one person. The budget does not begin in the House. It begins in the executive. The agencies and departments prepare their proposals. The executive consolidates them into the National Expenditure Program, and that program is then submitted to Congress. From there, the House deliberates, but the House is not one person, and it is certainly not the Speaker alone. It is a collegial body made up of hundreds of members, multiple committees, vice chairs, and institutional processes. In fact, there are around 85 committees, each with its own jurisdiction, leadership, and members. No speaker can personally control every committee, much less direct the actions of other branches or government agencies. And in the Appropriations Committee itself, there are already more than 100 members, with many vice chairs, and Representative Toby Tiangco, who has been very vocal and upfront on this issue over the past months, was himself a vice chair of the Appropriations Committee in the previous Congress. So I have to ask, if there were real concerns about irregularities in the budget process, why were these not formally raised during the deliberations, or even during the plenary? The budget deliberation does not stop in the House. The Senate also conducts its own deliberations, reviews its own version, and plays its own role in shaping the final budget, and it is not a bystander. It is an active constitutional participant in this process. After that, the House and the Senate reconcile their versions in the bicameral conference committee. Only then is the final bill transmitted to the President for approval or veto. So let us be honest about what becomes law. The national budget is not the act of one person or one chamber. It is the product of a constitutional chain involving the executive, the House, and the Senate. This is something I want the public to understand. The budget process is collective, multi-layered, and shared. Accountability must apply to everyone involved, not selectively assigned after the fact, and certainly not when it becomes politically useful. If corruption were to occur in a magnitude made known to us over the past months, then it's clear that the real corruption does not happen at the level of the general legislative approval alone. It happens at the level of execution of the General Appropriations Act. It happens when projects are implemented. It happens where projects are actually implemented, where procurement is undertaken, where monetary disbursements are actually made. And it happens when substandard projects are passed off as legitimate or when ghost projects are made to appear real. That is why command responsibility is far more logically relevant in the executive branch, where there is actually supervision, operational control, and implementation on the ground, than in the collegial legislative body, where constitutional role is deliberation and appropriation. Congress does not build flood control projects. Congress does not conduct procurement. Congress does not inspect whether a project was actually completed. Congress does not certify whether the work done was substandard or not. So if the allegation is that there was a systemic corruption in flood control implementation, then the public should ask the obvious question: where does implementation actually happen? Definitely not in the session hall of the House of Representatives. Here's the simplest way to test that theory that I am the mastermind of this scheme. If I were truly involved in a fraudulent scheme of this nature, then the first place one would expect to see that pattern would be in my own district, in the projects most easily associated with me. You would have seen it in Tacloban, but I say this with absolute certainty. You won't see it in my district. My district has 0 ghost and 0 substandard flood control projects. 0. And that is verifiable. To prove this point, I'm authorizing my staff to share and release to the public the list of all the projects in my district that the authorities may deem attributable to me. Let the public scrutinize and verify for themselves. As I already mentioned, corruption of this scale is not a one-man operation. It requires 2 things: budget decisions and implementation on the ground. With respect to how the budget was deliberated in Congress, let me say this categorically. I was not a part of the BICAM and the small committee budget deliberations. Yes, I was updated on the general outcomes of the deliberations, but I had no visibility with regard to the specific details of the discussions, including particular amendments or insertions approved during these closed-door deliberations. Records would show that I did not participate in those meetings and I was not privy to what exactly transpired during the deliberations.
2 tao ngayon ang itinuturo ni Martin na sila umano ang naging instrumental sa nangyaring budget decisions. Ito ay sina dating Senate President Chis Escudero at Zaldico.
However, 2 people were instrumental in making those budget decisions: Chis Escudero and Zaldico. And once the budget becomes law, the work of implementing flood control projects, or any project for that matter, is solely within the purview of the executive, including the DPWH, certainly not by legislators. I understand the anger of the public. The Filipino people have every right to be angry because stolen public funds are taxes derived from hard-earned money. I'm not asking the public to look away. I'm asking everyone to look where the evidence points, not where it is politically convenient or politically motivated. So I ask the Ombudsman and the public these questions. Who has been named in sworn testimonies and affidavits? Whose name actually appeared in credible accounts made under oath? If there are sworn accounts pointing to other personalities across the chain, whether in budget deliberations or in implementation, then those leads must be pursued with the same seriousness and the same urgency. Accountability cannot be selective. For months, I chose silence because I believe in our legal system and in the rule of law. But my silence is now being exploited with politically engineered and fabricated narratives. What's even more disturbing, and this is something that cannot be ignored, is that there are emerging indications that certain sectors are attempting to weaponize individuals, including Zaldico, to construct a narrative that serves their own interests.
Klaro ang pahayag ni Martin sa kanyang ipinalabas na statement na lalabanan niya at haharapin niya ang anumang aligasyong ibinabato sa kanya. Pero mukha yatang may plano itong mag-aala Zaldico matapos itong magpaalam na luluwas ng bansa para magpagamot at allergy naman si Ombudsman Boyeng Rimulya dito.
Mr. Romualdez was supposed to have a checkup in Singapore, I think. They were trying to ask us to allow him to leave. We did not respond favorably to the request that he be allowed to leave.
Hindi pinabura ng Office of the Ombudsman ang hiling ni dating House Speaker at later Representative Martin Romualdez na pumunta ng Singapore para magpa-check up.
Kaya lang, syempre nga, ang problema dyan, para namang sobrang coincidental na nahuli si Zaldico sa Europe, wala siya aalis. Baka mamaya, wala na tayo mapanghawakan dito sa bansang ito. Lahat ng ating nais pasagutin, mawala na lang sa ating jurisdiction. Nag-iingat lang po tayo. Pinag-iingatan natin ang karapatan ng ating bayan din. May karapatan din tayo mga Pilipino na sabihin sa kanya, wag muna umalis.
Pattern na talaga to sa mga politiko na sa bawat may kinasasangkutang katiwalian ay kaagad itong nagkakasakit. Rason para umalis ng bansa para magpagamot. Kung halimbawang papayagan ito ay malaki raw ang posibilidad ayon sa iba na matulad talaga ito kay Zaldico na hindi na babalik at magtatago na lang ito hanggang sa makakaya at maglalabas na lang ng pahayag na pinipersonal ng pamahalaan para idiin sa mga kaso at sasabihin hindi nakakuha ng tamang due process. Mukhang natuto na ang pamahalaan sa nangyari kay Zaldico at humihingi na ito ngayon sa AMLAC ng freeze order para sa mga asset at bank accounts ni Martin.
Hinahabol na rin ng mga ombudsman ang mga ari-arian ni Romualdez. Yan ang agenda report ni Joan Manalo.
Office of the Ombudsman sa Anti-Money Laundering Council o AMLAC ang pag-freeze ng mga bank account at assets ni dating House Speaker Martin Romualdez. Kaugnay ito sa kinaharap ni Romualdez na issue ng money laundering at korupsyon na maaari ring dikit sa flood control scandal. Ayon kay Ombudsman Boyeng Rimulya, hinihintay na lang nila na ma-endorso ng AMLAC sa Court of Appeals ang freeze order.
Well, very soon. Kasi nga, we want it filed already. Yan ang aming pinupush talaga ngayon. We expect it to be filed by tomorrow. So we'll give or take a few days for the Court of Appeals to act on our request.
Sa oras na mapauwi na ng Pinas si Zaldico ay malaki ang posibilidad na maghaharap-harap sila ni Martin at si Escudero sa gagawing investigasyon sa Senado para matumbok kung sino nga ba talaga sa kanila ang nagsasabi ng totoo at kung sino talaga ang lumustay ng pera sa kaban ng bayan. Kaabang-abang ito dahil panigurado kanya-kanyang turuan na naman ito. Pero ang tanong, posible kayang makapuslit palabas ng bansa si Martin kahit na hindi ito pinayagan ng ombudsman? Kung gusto nyo ng mga ganitong klaseng videos, panoorin, pindutin ang notification bell, mag-subscribe at i-share sa mga kaibigan. Maraming salamat po hanggang sa susunod dito sa Historiador Filipino.